I just got back.
I'm sorry, I'm adding him at 30, Gershon. You mean shark?
Yeah, can you ask Peretz to lock my door, please?
Welcome back, Peretz.
Lock my door.
There.
What? All right, let's go. Sorry, I'm late a little bit.
Jacob, we thought maybe with the time change, you lost track.
No, it was a minute from my so it went a little longer.
That's, are you on, is he recording already?
I don't know if he's recording.
Yeah. Okay. Where do we leave? Oh, we're up to Prakmachi. Okay, it's a chaval. That is a lot of stuff in tonight's stuff. Avelus and that hopefully we don't have to know. But Prakmachi, a lot of business stuff on doing business in Cholamayit. Okay, so B'omar Rabba, about 10, 12 lines up from the bottom. Yeah.
Where are you starting from? Yud Amud Beis on the bottom?
Yud Amud Beis is like around 10, 12 lines up from the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, we got it. Yeah. Waiting for the all clear sign.
All clear.
All right. You just said Rabbi Sign of Array.
Arizona. How's the weather over there?
Better than by you. Okay, that's it. Baruch Hashem. Very nice. Okay, ready? So look, V'omar Rava. Hani Timri Tuchlani. These dates that are raw, unripe, raw, same thing. Megazrinu Shari. If you want to cut them up, it's mutter. Maitzinu Aser, but to squeeze them out, that's Aser on Cholamayid. Yeah, meaning because the question is what exactly is allowed to. It's considered for cutting it is considered a tzarech yomtiv, but maitzinu, which basically means to crush it, that would make it edible right away. That's also, yeah, because it's not really going to be ready. So mamela, well, I said before it's going to be ready. Meaning, if you're going to squeeze it out like that, it's not going to be considered a tzarech yomtiv, so it's not allowed. But Rapapa Markivin de Maslali Kirpagmachi Avadami, since it's going to get wormy, then it's considered like business that you're going to lose. Bashari, and then therefore it's mutter to do it. Now, what does that mean? Pragmatia. It's called pragmatia of kolshu. Sorry. Let's wait for the next line. So he says it's like business that you're going to lose. Like meaning, basically, it's like if you have inventory and the expiration date is coming up. I think we discussed it once or twice. So yeah, it's inventory. And you have expiration date coming up, and you don't sell it on cholamayits, and you're going to lose out. So then that would be davar ovid, and that would be mutter. Right, but he says, B'omar Rava though, pragmatia kolshu aser. Any minimal amount of business on cholamayid is aser. Right, Rashi says pragmatia kolshu. The second line up from the bottom in the Rashi, he says to do business on cholamayid is aser. Right, and Amar Rabbi Yossi bar Aven ubedavra avid mutter. But davra avid, if it's going to get lost, it's mutter. Now, what is davar avid? Since this is so important, we have to do the Rashi on this. Davar avid mutter she'im yesh loy hefsid im lo yasena lo schayra. If you're going to have a loss, if you don't do that business, mutter la soisa, then you're allowed to do it. But for free, and you're not going to make any profit, then you're not allowed to do business. Now, from Rashi, it's mashma that you can, if you're going to lose out from making a profit, that would be mutter. Right, which is a big chiddush because that's not a loss. That's just you're not making profit, right? But look at the Taisus of Davar Avid Mutter, the bottom Taisus. He says, "Pirish b'davar shimla yim karena ata." If you're not going to sell it now, shemla yim karena yafa pamacheres. You're not going to. It's not going to be selling for this amount of money later on. V'yafsim in akeren, you're going to lose your principal. Avalim lo yafsim in akeren. But if you're not going to lose the keren, but you're just not going to make so much profit, that's not called davar ovid. So that's a major major thing from Tosfos. So Tosfos is saying that only if you're going to take a loss, an active loss, then you're allowed to. That's called davar ovid. To just not make profit, that's not davar ovid. Right? And he says, Kol shekain liknos schayra shemeti yosef b'yoker achar hamoed. Same thing, and it's a kol shekain to buy products in order to make money from it after Yom Tov. That's not allowed. Right? Aval liknos yain kosher was like hamoed mutter, but to buy wine and chol hamoed, that's mutter. Rav Yosef Pirish yesh lesser the afal pishalay yimtze bezal or yimtze b'yoker veins a davar ovid. He says, well, just because it's cheap to buy wine on chol hamoed doesn't mean that's called a loss. That's a big chumrah from Rabbi Yosef here. But anyway, so and we basically paskin like this Tosfos, which is that if it's going to be a loss, then you're allowed to do the business. If it's just not going to be a profit, then you're not allowed to do the
Wait a
business.
minute, but if you have an expense, if you have rent on a thing, and every day you don't open, you're not going to be able to cover that expense.
So that's a shot. That would be a hefsid, because the way you're paying for your rent is the way you're paying for your mortgage is by having somebody help you or somebody pay you rent.
Yeah, but if
that's
you
a loss.
if you close those 7 days, at the end of the month, you're not going to lose money. Maybe you will lose, but you're not going to make.
Correct. So not making is not, according to Tosfos, is not enough of a reason to do business on Chol Hamoed.
So there's no heter for somebody to keep the store open on Yom Tov.
On a regular store, correct. Grocery stores, yes, because it's tzarech moed. Right? Things that are for a tzarech moed, yes, but not stam to keep a business open, right? What's it called? B&H. B&H is closed, the whole Chol Hamoed, and the website too.
And it's just taka big chiddush, yeah.
It's a big chiddush, right? So otherwise, the ones that are makel to keep the business open are saying like you, Zev, which is if I don't, I have to pay rent, and if I won't be, I'm going to lose. I'm actually going to lose money if I don't. I'm counting on selling these products in order to pay my rent, which is debatable if that's really called davar ovid.
Does that apply also online?
Online is more makel because it's happening automatic. It's not you. It's not you. Right?
You would appreciate Romanian in Chicago, the butcher that you like the meat. He closes like a day before Yom Tov for the whole Yom Tov.
Very good. Very good. Okay,
he says that people can buy the meat beforehand. They don't need it. He closes from I don't even think he's open Erev Yom Tov. I think he closes Chatzos the day before.
That's pretty good. That is pretty good. Okay. Yeah,
I hear that. What if your skara is a service? Like you're an attorney or an accountant, that you can't really make up that time because you have to have customer facing time.
That's not a loss. That's not a loss. That's just not making.
That's not a loss. That's just making.
Unless the attorney, that's what we're saying, unless the attorney has rent to pay, and if he doesn't take his customers.
Well, that's like anything. That's like anything. You hit September time, and your accountant shuts down. Like what's he supposed to do?
Oh, so some people, if they're going to lose their clientele, so then that's a heter.
No, it's not even that. He's got time. He's got, part of his job is to be there with the customers, talking to the customers.
Right, he can ask his local Orthodox rabbi.
And if he's not there,
I am actually.
It's not so local.
That you can do on private time.
Parrots is tired. But what do you call it? So I mean, that's if he's going to lose a customer, if he's not available for the customer, then yes, 100%. That would be a davar ovid.
Okay.
You also get into the stocks. Stocks. Can you do stocks called pragmatia? Can you do stocks on Chol Hamoed?
Your question, can you do the stocks in general? Okay,
That's a different story. But I'm saying, but if you're going to do it if you're doing, but on Chol Hamoed, can you do it? Right? Is that called business or is not called business? That's a Machlokes in the poskim. Okay, so fine. Ravina had a business. To have a mizdavin b'shisa alfi. He would be able to sell it for 6,000 zuz on Chol Hamoed. Shayaz lazvune, and he, instead of selling it, he waited. Basar chalad u'me'ad. He waited till after Chol Hamoed, right? He did like a B&H type thing. The zavne b'treisar alfi, and then he sold it for 12,000. Right. So this is what you get from these type of stories. You see that he did the right thing, even though he was machmer, and he ended up with double the profit. So then, we can't lose if we try and do the right thing with Nimashur Sadin, and then it doesn't happen like this. We can't get disappointed. Right? He was a big rav, big rabbi. I don't know, whatever he was zeicha, but we can't say we got to do regardless of whether we have these stories that happen to us. Fine, even though he went lefnim shur zadin, so really maker din is fine. Ravina have a masik zuzi, right? So Ravina had money if they akra the shanvasa. So he had money, meaning he was owed money by there's people that lived on the shores of Shanvasa. Yeah, so meaning they owed him money. Also, can I go today? Can I go ask them for money? Right. So meaning he figured they were home. He can go collect from them. Even because Chalamayid, now you're going to find them. So on other days you're not going to find them. So it's like business that's going to get lost, Mashari, and it's mutter. So this is a major leniency in Hilchos Chalamayid. Basically, what he was telling him is, since you're able to collect on the loan today, if you don't do it, you're going to end up losing, and you're not going to end up getting it. So therefore, it's mutter. Yeah, which they do. They say based on this is that this is the big shopping heter, right? If you're near a mall on Chalamayid, and you're gonna have to schlep back to the mall to go shopping, so can you shop on Chalamayid even if it's stuff not for Yom Tov? So many places can say that that's allowed, because since you're there at that particular time, therefore you're allowed to if you're in the right place at the right time, you would be allowed to do things on Chalamayid. Okay, let's see. We'll see a little bit more about that. We learned the same thing by Avodah Zarah. We know from the Avodah Zarah, we had this a couple of times, that you're not allowed to do business with them on their holidays because they're going to go thank their God. So you can be over lifnei ivra. So ki hagana holchin yirid shal akam. You can go to a yirid, to what do you call it? What's a yirid?
Shuk, Rashi.
A shuk, whatever, a flea market, a bazaar. But like a behema, avodim, shvachas, you're allowed to buy from them behema, avodim, shvachas, batim, sodas, kramim. You're allowed to basically buy whatever you want. The kaisev, umalav arkashana, you can even write it up and you can file it in their courts. Meaning you're filing it, Rashi says, because you want them to legally have to be meshubah to give it to you. It's like saving it from their hands, right? Meaning he's allowed to do this signing of the contract because he is. That's otherwise it's not gonna work. Maybe the guy's gonna deny it. So you see that even for these type of things, it's gonna be mutter. Rav Shara L'chia Bar Ashi L'Migdal Uri B'Chala D'Mayada. He allowed people to what do you call it? To make these fish nets on Chalamayid. My time, or why? My said you do, because he was only doing it as an amateur. Aval Isli also, but to make Isli, which is bird traps, that's not allowed. My timer, my who, because that's a Maisa Uman. So again, you see another big rule with Chalamayid is that things that are a Maisa Hedjit, you're allowed to do. Things that are a Maisa Uman, you're not allowed to do. Right? And people don't understand this. I once made this mistake, but then again, I have two left hands. So I once bought an outdoor swing on Chalamayid, and I figured it's Tzarech Yom Tov. And then I'm putting it together on my front lawn, and then I realized that maybe if I follow all the directions, the mice I didn't, so I botched it. So I'm an amateur, that's for sure. But if you knew how to put together these things on Chalamayid, even if it's a Tzarech Mayid, it's not allowed. You can only do it as something that's not a uman, right? So even it's tzarech mayid. Fine. Rav Yehuda, Shara Lami Tanura. Rav Yehuda was mater for Ami, the tanner man, the migdal tanuri, to make ovens on Yom Tov, on Chalamayid, or l'rabaras asvi l'migdal mahuta, and to Rabba Bar Asri to make mahulta, to make sifters, right? Now, what's a pshat? So these are clearly experts. So he did allow it, right? But it's for these tzarich achila. So if it's tzarich achila, then it's mutter. Right? That's a major caveat. So if you get yourself a new grill on Chol Hamoed, you would be able to put it together because that's tzarich achila. Eini, it's not true. They both agree that you're not allowed to make an oven lechatchila. So how come Yehuda allowed it? Like kasha, that's not a steer. One is talking about during the summer, and one is talking about during the winter. When it's in the summer, the oven's going to get completed because the heat is going to make the oven solid. But in the rain, I'm sorry, I think I said it the opposite. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, no. In the summer, you're allowed to do it because the oven's going to be ready to be used on Chol Hamoed because it's so hot, it gets baked. It gets the oven. Maybe make it out of clay or earthenware or whatever it is. So it becomes baked, and you're able to actually use it on Chol Hamoed. But if in the Mosek Shamim, when it's much harder for it to dry, so if you're going to make this oven on Chol Hamoed, it may not be able to be used on Chol Hamoed, and therefore it's not going to be allowed. Fine. Okay, so there's a lot of halacha right there in Hilchos Chol Hamoed.
So you're allowed to have a professional make it during the summer, right?
It's not the summer, it's Chol Hamoed.
But you might say chama in the sun.
Yeah, but it's because the sun, because Pesach is more Yemais Chama. It's hotter Pesach Chol Hamoed than Sukkot.
So a professional's allowed to do it?
A professional, if it's tzarich achila, yes.
Why is tzarich achila mutter? We said before, fish is not mutter.
What do you mean?
We said before by the fish.
Yeah, because so we said by the fish trap. He said is not allowed.
Even for Chol Hamoed.
Yes, correct.
Why not?
This is talking about he's building a grill so you can use it to make a barbecue on Chol Hamoed.
So what? He's using it for Chol Hamoed.
That's why he's saying it's mutter.
But why before did we say the fish?
I think it's a different mandamar. That's all.
The fish one was mutter. The bird one was aser.
Right, but okay, that's it. You're right. But why the bird one? Why can't you do the bird one? The fish one was mutter. The bird one was also. Why can't?
Then you get into the shaila of eating deer on Yom Tov. Is it mutter?
I mean, maybe because the bird is not going to be. That's not the way you trap kosher birds.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, well, I don't understand. What is the nafkamina? I meant the birds. The birds, you're doing it for Yom Tov, so you should be allowed to do it.
Well, I don't know if you're doing it for Yom Tov. Maybe you're catching the birds to be like a pet.
What's the shot? No.
Why not? Could still be a tzarich Yom Tov. You just can't do Maisa Uman. You're allowed to make shvacha traps for it. You just can't do Maisa Uman.
Why not?
We don't allow Maisa Uman only if it's tzarich achila. That's it.
It is tzarich achila, the birds.
But I don't think the birds are being used. Either he disagrees, or we say that the birds are not being used for eating.
I think the default position of catching a bird in a net makes it a trait.
Correct. It was about.
So it's not for achila.
Yeah, to trap it, even if it's not going to make, but definitely at a high risk for making it into a treifa. I don't know if it's la halacha going to make it into a treifa. I don't remember.
No, only if it gets a broken bone. It's likely though.
But it's a high risk.
Highly unlikely that someone would use a net for achila. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay, so weiter. So now this next line in the Mishna, there's a lot of tumult in the poskim about. Oisen Michael Lagag. So we know what a maaka is, right? If you have a roof that people go on there, so you have to build a fence, right? It's a maaka. It's got to be 40 inches lechatchila, 30 inches according to the makilim, but you have to make a maaka for your roof. So on Chol Hamoed, can you do that? So Oisen Michael Lagag, ulam repeset, and to a porch. Maisa hedge, you can only do it as a maisa hedge. You have a loy maisa uman, but not a maisa uman. Now, the chayra is a mitzvah deraisa, right? It is a mitzvah deraisa to make a maaka. And here we're saying that you can't do it. We're saying that you can't do it as a maisa uman. Why not?
You should have done it before Yom Tov.
No, but so what? The maisa nowadays, you still need it. You need it. It could be sakana too.
Exactly. If an amateur makes it and somebody leans up against it, and falls over.
Yeah. So the way some Rishonim learn that it's not talking about a maaka that you mamash mechuyev in. It's one of the things that a maaka does not necessarily, that place that doesn't necessarily need a maaka. So it's a big total of place of exactly what needs a maaka, what doesn't need a maaka. So there's a Chazon Ish that bases it on from this Mishna, not on this Mishnah, from the way the Ritu explains this Mishnah, that only if your roof is on top of a house that's occupied, that's meant for living, do you need a maaka. If it's on top of a house that's not meant for living, then it doesn't need. Meaning, so a porch that a lot of times has nothing under it. So according to the Chazon Ish, based on this Mishnah, a lot of, he said you would not be required midaraisa. You need it anyways for safety, but not necessarily a chiyav out the actual maika. Fine. Okay, then it says shafin es asadakin umagila noisan. You're allowed to smooth out the cracks that are in an oven. And Magila Naisan is is another way of smoothing it out with a tool. But Magila, with a Magila, biyad of a regal, with a hand and a foot. So it's a little confusing what this line means. The Gemara is going to clarify it. So anyway, but again, the Gemara, the Mishnah is saying that you're allowed to smear these cracks in the oven with a Magila, but with your hand and your foot. But not with this special tool for it, which we'll see in the Gemara. Fine. Next din in the Gemara, Mishna Hatzir, Vahatzinor, Vahakoira, Vahamino, Vamafteach. These are basically all things that happen in the houses. Hatzir is what do you call it? Hinges, and a tziner is a pipe, and a koira is a beam, and a minol is a lock, and a mafteach is a key, and all of these things that broke. These are basically all things that are part of doors. So we're afraid for stealing, and it's going to be a loss for you. So if any of these things break, you're allowed to fix it on chol hamoed. As long as you don't say, oh, I'm off from work on chol hamoed, I'll wait to fix my lock then. Right? That you're not allowed to do. So if it was broken before chol hamoed and you pushed it off to wait till chol hamoed, then that's not allowed. Yeah? So then that's so
why isn't that the davar of it?
Davar of it that you delayed purposely to chol hamoed, you're not allowed to do.
Because you accomplished work.
No, you could have. You should have done it earlier. Should have done it earlier.
Jacob, I would
try
say
to
that
get work done.
So
you
what?
didn't have to work on chol hamoed, so you have to push this off.
Now you're painting a different scenario. Like, stay up an extra hour at night and fix it. Right? What are you saying, Aaron?
I was going to say if you could visit your shviga before Yom Tov, then it's also to go on chol hamoed. Then shouldn't have to.
Could be. It could. Yeah. And if she's in the sukkah when you want to eat in the sukkah, you mitzvah. Okay.
That's a different problem. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm maybe in the oven.
Yes. But anyways, fine. So that's what it is. You're not allowed to be anything that you're afraid for stolen things. You're allowed to do it on chol hamoed, but you cannot have you can't have the kavanah to do it on chol hamoed. And the last thing is the chol kvashin shu yachal lechem and b'mayid kaivshin. If you want to make pickles or anything pickled, so that's a malacha too. Right? People don't think that that's a malacha, but that it is. So you're not allowed to do it unless the food is going to be edible on chol hamoed. So you can't just decide you're going to put up pickles and say, oh, it'll sit for a week until after Yom Tov and then they'll be perfect. Right? Not allowed. Right? Unless it can be done quickly. All right, fine. So the Gemara asks, I'm sorry, how do you define a maisa hedyot by building? How do you build a fence as a maisa hedyot? Right? Because again, we're talking about the mic on top of the roof. How do you do that? You do it with little branches and twigs and stuff like that. In the Brisa it says you pile up the rocks and you don't use any cement. Fine. So those are temporary walls. We had that a couple of blocks ago. Fine. So you're allowed to smooth out the cracks in the oven, and you can use the magila. So hashtava magila amrachari. If you said that you're allowed to use this roller that smooths out like a paint roller, so do you need to say that you're not going to do it with a hand and a foot? Of course you're going to do it with a hand and a foot. I'm saying if you're doing it with a hand and a foot, then I'm sorry. If you could do it with a roller, then of course you could do it with a hand and a foot. So what's the Mishnah saying? What it's saying is that you're allowed to smooth out the cracks, and you're allowed to and spread out all the whatever, the mud or the cement that you're doing, like a magila with your hand and foot. I mean, it doesn't mean that you're actually using a roller. You're using your hands and feet as if they were a roller. But not with his machlokes, because that is that's an expert way of doing it, and therefore it's not allowed, right? So some say machlokes is really the same thing as the magilan, but it's just that you're using it straight, not with your hand and your foot. Okay, fine. Hatzir, vatzina, vakara, vamino, vamateach, shenishba, misakar, moed. You're allowed to fix it on moed. But ramino last gistira ad yamav hayapatish maaka b'Yerushalayim. Until this is some background here. Yochanan Kohen Gadol made a takana that no tools can be used on Chol Hamoed because they make a lot of noise, and it was and it looked like it was a regular weekday. Right? Anybody that learned in the mir that knows how loud those nagarim are with their banging and their drilling and their sawing and all that. So Yochanan Kohen Gadol said no more doing these things because it makes too much noise. So ad yom of in, so it sounds like until his days, you were allowed to use his tools, mikan ve'elach from there and not from after that, you're not allowed to. So how are we allowed to fix all these things, the door and the lock and all that? If Yochanan Kohen Gadol already made a takana that you're not allowed to use tools. So he said, one is talking about blacksmiths, and one is talking about the nagarim, carpenters, right? So blacksmiths, when they bang, it makes a lot of noise. So that he asked it. But nagari, that's not as noisy. Are we really going to say that a loud noise is mutter and a low noise is not? I'm sorry, a loud noise is asur and a low noise is mutter? How can that be? If he asur noise, he asur noise. What are you saying, Gershon?
Do we paskin like the way like this? Moed coil and Chol Hamoed is asur?
As far as I know, we don't.
Right.
I think so. I don't know. But I mean, I don't know what it's negeya anymore. This one is really. It's interesting thing.
Music.
Right?
You make a concert.
So right. So that's. And what about running a dishwasher, right? And running these type of things on Chol Hamoed.
So that's not a lot of coil. That's not.
Well, that's a question.
Rabba.
Can you run the dishwasher?
Now you can say it's Tzarech Yom Tov.
That's true, but if there was an isser of kol, they would ask it. Meaning, are you allowed to run a dishwasher in your house right before Shabbos and let it run into Shabbos, or a washing machine and dryer? So the place can say if it makes a lot of noise, then you can't, because making noise on Shabbos is a problem. Right, making noise on Shabbos is a problem. So you have that.
That's
air conditioners are allowed.
So the new ones are very quiet, so it's not an issue. What?
Not that many people have those new ones. There's a lot of noisy ones still out there.
Yeah, so then that would be a problem. But it doesn't seem like on Chol Hamoed that anybody ever said this, right? Anyway, so he's asking. So what we're going to start the splitting hairs, or what things make noise and what don't. So one is talking about very big saws, and one is talking about smaller saws. So the bigger saws, that they don't make too much noise, right? And Rashi says they make no noise, right? And Haba Chatzini wants to talk about with smaller saws, which make a lot more noise. I don't know exactly. I don't know what the Mitzias is with that. Rav Papa Amar said that's
probably to do with the size of the teeth. The larger the teeth are on a saw, the more noise it's going to make.
No, he says the large one is what do you call it? The large one makes no noise.
Because the larger one makes less noise, no?
No noise, Rashi says.
Right, because it has more teeth. So relatively to the amount you're doing, the teeth are smaller. If the teeth are the same size, it's going to make less noise.
I got you. Okay. Rav Papa Amar kan koydem gzeira, kan lacher gzeira. One was talking about before the Gezerah, and one is after the Gezerah. Right? That's a simple teretz to say. Meaning, and the Mishna was talking about before the Gezerah. Rashi Amar Ha Rav Yehuda Ha Rav Yosi. One is Rabbi Yehuda, one's Rabbi Yosi, and this is a big chumrah from Rabbi Yosi. I'm sorry, from Rabbi Yitzchak Mantana shinui b'mayir b'davar avid. Who is the mandamar that says that when you're doing a davar avid, you need to do with a shinui? To like Rabbi Yosi, that's not like Rabbi Yosi. Yeah, Amar Ravina, Kaman, Madlina, Naidna, Kfiyusa, the Dasha. Who do we go like nowadays that we're allowed to fix the Dasha, the how do you call it? The not the threshold. Top, you have two lepis and a lintel. Yes, the lintel. The chalad demayada that we're allowed to fix on a chalamayid if it's falling down, which is obviously a davar avid because you don't want this doorway collapsing on anybody on chalamayid. Come on, it's like kids like Rabbi Yosi. Right, so this sheet here of Yitzchak bar Avdimi, which we don't paskin like, but he holds that when you have a heter to do a davar avid on chalamayid, you still have to do it with a shinui. Right, we learned before that it's a lot of times to do malachs on chalamayid, they allowed it with a shinui. Right, but and Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi said even if it's a davar avid, you're allowed to do it with a shinui. But lamaisa we don't. We don't paskin like that. So if somebody has a davar avid, he does not have to do it with a shinui, right? Which is negeya to, let's say you have to write something down, because if you don't write it down, it's going to be lost. So you're allowed to do it because you don't have to write with a shinui because it's a davar avid. Fine. So pickled vegetables that you want to eat a chalamayid is mutter. So the Gemara says bedisa levai kvari. What happened was there was this river by the city of Levi, and the river was called Bedisa, had fish. So there were fish there. So basically what happened was that the water would how do you call it? When the banks would overflow. And then when the water would recede, it would leave a bunch of dead fish sitting there. Right? So Azal Kuli Amat Said Aisukara. Everybody went out to trap and bring these fish. So now everybody had tons and tons of fish on chalamayid. So Sharalu Rava lemimlach minayo. So Rava allowed them to be salted in order that they should be able to keep their fish.
This was the original herring, no?
Yeah, or whatever it is. But the point of the Gemara is saying is you're doing a lot of salting that's not necessarily going to be for chalamayid. Right? So, but he allowed that. Only pickled things you're allowed to do that you can eat on chalamayid, and that's it. So how did he allow him? How do you allow this whole town to go grab fish? So since when they brought all the fish, they actually thought that they're going to be eating that fish on chalamayid. And if they're just going to leave it without salting it, pasti, it's going to be a loss. So it's like lost business. And it's going to be mutter. So there's a major thing right here. So there's a couple things here. One is he's saying as long as when you took it, you didn't know whether this was going to be eaten on chalamayid, so therefore you're allowed to have it, even though there's a decent chance that amount of fish you're not going to do. You're not going to eat, but still it's allowed. Right? So now what is this negeya? The apple picking. What's one of the big pastimes? The apple picking. So what would be the heter? That's an issa deraisa, right? It's picking apples. So what are you going to say? Well, I need it for chalamayid. Okay, that's very nice. How many apples do you need for chalamayid? Right? It's not so posh. It's some place my father was very anti the apple picking on chalamayid, because then some say, what, you just go to the store and buy the apples? Why do you have to go pick the apples? Right? Fine. Yeah, so that's one version of the story. The other one is Vigadamri, Sharalu, Rava, Meitzad, Mezel, Isu, Mimlach. Rava, in the first case, it happened to be that all the fish were washed onto the shore. Here, Rava is actually telling them to go trap it. We said only things that you're able to eat from them on chalamayid. These can be eaten by pressing them, like we had with the dates before. They made 60 fish for Shmuel, and he ate it, right? Which, right? So Rashi says they would wash it. The way Rashi says it, they would wash it 60 times in order I guess, to make it edible. Fine. So Rava Iklu Lebe Reish Galusa, Rava traveled to the Reish Galusa's house. Abdullah Shisan Itzasiv Achel, they made him 60 of this type fish things, or they pressed it 60 times, and he ate it. Rav Iklu Lebe Rav Shvir, right? So Rav traveled to the house of Rav Shvir, Aisel Kamaya Hukvara, and they brought fish in front of him. Tilsa Bishula was the third cooked, Tilsa Milcha was the third salted, the Tilsa Tviya on the third roasted. So Amar Rav, Amrli Ada Tzaida. So Rav said, Ada the Tzaida, the trapper, the fish trapper, told me, Kavra Samach Lemisrche Maili. Fish, when it's about to get decayed or when it's about to get spoiled, Maili, that's when it's best. Okay, now what does that mean? He's saying that you should really eat fish right before it spoils. As a major taisus on this, the one taisus on this daf says, "Ubezman hazeh taivsim sakana lemeichel samach l'sirchan." Nowadays, it's actually a sakana to eat fish right before they spoil. The gam mishtei ala avua mishtei ala avua the amar b'samach the maili. What?
No.
Yeah, so the Omar v'samach the Maili v'shema nishtanu kamay refuah shebeshas is an important line here. Maybe they're different because of the refuahs, like the same way there are refuahs and shas she'eina tavis b'zman hazeh. Right, you have all these gemaras that say this is healthy, that's healthy, right? And nowadays it doesn't apply. Oshema naris the Bavel Mailu leitfei. Maybe the rivers in Bavel made the fish better like that before they decayed. Whatever it is. Here you see a taisus that the things of sakana can change, right? Meaning the things, health things can change. Our Gemara is saying that right before it gets bad, it's the best, and obviously nowadays it's not good. The question is, how far do you take this? Do you take this that fish? The big one is fish and meat, which is clearly not a sakana anymore, right? Can you eat fish and meat together? It's clearly not a sakana. What about cutting your nails on the same day? What about cutting your nails for a pregnant woman and throwing it away or burning it so pregnant women don't step on it? These seem to all be not negay, although I don't know how anybody knows that that's not negay because miscarriage is fairly common, unfortunately. And how do you know it doesn't come from nails? I don't know who did a study like that.
One common one is the back of the hand. I think Moed says if you hit the back of the hand, it could be life-threatening.
Oh, the back of the hand, right? That's true. Even eye, doctor, even the eye. I know you have your proofs, but be'etzem, a lot of things with the eye that affects the whole body. Okay, whatever it is, this taisus is important, but he says the mitzias could change. Fine. Back in the Gemara, 4 lines up from the end of the parak. The fish you roast it with its brother, right? Meaning in salt. Why is it called the brother? Rashi says because it was born in the water with salt. Asuke ba'avua, and you put it into its father, which is the water, right? After you finish roasting it or whatever it is, broiling it, then you put it into water. Michla bebrei, and then you eat it with its son, which is basically the fish yach, as they say. Right, that stuff, you dip the fish into that, and then that's the best way to eat it. And ishti aleyavu, and then you drink from its father after, meaning which is water, because its father, it's water. So that's the basic way to eat fish. Amar Rav, Amrli Adat, another thing that this Adat told him, Ada the trapper, Kvara tachli v'chalba, if you eat fish, tachli is what do you call it? Cress. That's like the favorite vegetable of Shas, and chalba is milk. Litain gufa. That's going to be a problem for the body. But loy litan puria, but it's not. But it's not going to be good for going to sleep, right? Meaning, don't go to sleep right after eating it. Yeah. And the first meaning litan gufa means take care of the body. Meaning Rashi says you have to walk around a lot before you go to sleep. That's basically what this means.
It's a right of exercise.
Well, I don't know. He says it only dafka by fish, though.
Oh.
Right, so I don't know.
Who says that?
By meat. What?
Who says
it? Rashi.
Rashi's got to walk around a lot and don't go to sleep after eating this fish.
Yeah, as opposed to Shmuel. Shmuel says every time you eat, you should walk Daled Amos before you go to sleep. This is more than that.
You think that's the Machlokes Rav and Shmuel?
No, this is just this particular food. Walk more than that.
I hear you. Okay. Fine. Then if you're gonna eat this cress and fish and milk, then drink water and no beer. And if you don't have water, then drink beer, but don't drink wine. Don't drink wine with this because obviously it's not healthy. Okay, fine. Hadron alach mashkin beis hashlochin and alachayim to all those.
L'chaim. Finish
the paragraph.
Parrots, you have a new chumrah. You can only have a l'chaim with gloves.
He didn't wash his hands on the plane.
Germaphobe that I go through the airport. When I go through this one, I gotta wash my hands. I go to the next one, I gotta wash my hands. And I go to this one.
Why not just spill a little bit of what you're drinking on your hands and you're fine?
What?
I said just spill a little bit of what you're drinking on your hands and you're cleansed.
Now it's time to put it on the airplane.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, okay. So Mazel Tov on the scene. We should make many more in health and well-being. Fine. Now we start with a lot of avelus here, because then we're going to compare a lot of the halachas of avelus to halachas of chol hamoed. Because an oval is not allowed to do malacha either, not allowed to have malacha done for him.
There's more avelus later in the
Yes,
right?
yes. Most of hilchas avelus is in Moed Cut. It starts
later.
now, but it's more the third parak. Yes, it's more the third parak.
No, because I remember when you told me when I was sitting shiva, I didn't start this.
Liar, no, you missed it. It was the first parrot.
No, okay. No, I just
Yaakov, I don't
so.
think that. I think the different shot with parrots with the gloves is that really he's working a brisket over there. He's making a siyum tonight on the parrot, and he's working a brisket. I know parrots. I know him a long time.
Could be.
I know parrots. Tell me I'm wrong, parrots.
Yeah.
Tell mommy parrots can no longer drive.
There you go. He just had a l'chaim for the seam, so he's not going out.
Aaron's coming over after the dock for some brisket.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's interesting that somebody asked me a shaila last night about avelus, where this kid, 19-year-old, is in avelus, and he's having some issues, and part of his refuah, I don't know if it's refuah, but the thing is that he's got to run for 2 hours a day. He's part of like a marathon, and it's being therapeutic for him, something like that. So can he run on a treadmill when he's in avelus, when he's in shiva, for a couple hours on the treadmill? Right? So I don't know if that's called malacha. I don't know if that's called being masiach das. The reason why an oval can't do malacha is because if he does malacha, he's going to be masiach das from the avelus. Right? So the question with this was that called being masiach das? I thought it was fine, but I don't know if I'm right. But the point is that if you do,
now, if it makes you feel better, I think it's avelus to run for 2 hours on a treadmill.
Yes, but that's
I
true.
was gonna say you should make sure to have someone there. He could do the opposite, being stuck alone with your own thoughts for 2 hours on a treadmill.
That's true. That's
not
true.
so healthy.
Now I'm thinking maybe it's going to make the guy need a shower too. So I don't know.
I was just gonna ask you the shower.
Yeah, they didn't ask about the shower. They didn't ask. I just thought about that right now. I don't know. I don't know.
Rabbi, I can tell you later what my brother-in-law is paskin when we were sitting, but that's not for a recording.
Sure. Okay. All right. So, anyways, okay. So, Zok the Mishna. Misha hapach zesav. So somebody was flipping over his olives. So basically, what they did is he's getting ready to squeeze them. The iru ovel, and then Nebuch he lost his. He lost the relatives. He had to sit shiva. Now, can he finish doing these olives, or he's going to lose the whole batch? Or he has another einus, right? Which his workers backed out on him, or something like that. Or his workers messed him over, right? Whatever it is, now it's chol hamoed. Yeah, so meaning it's either an oval shiloh or he got messed over for chol hamoed. So what is he allowed to do? So tayin kair rishon, he's allowed to put the first beam down on top of the olives, so that it doesn't get all lost. And then he can leave it till after Moed. Right? So that meaning that's the basic he could do in order to save his olives. That's what Rabbi Yehuda holds. Rabbi Yossi, Omer, Zayla, V'Gomer, V'Gof Kedarka. He could do everything like regular. He could pour the olives. He could pour the olives into the press, and he can do the total pressing, and he can actually even put it into the bottles.
Why? Because the Dover oven?
What? Yeah.
Dover oven's mutter favelas?
So the Kshailis he says, since Rabbi Yossi Shita is, since you're allowed to do it, yeah, Dover of it is going to be mutter for Avelis. Well, we're going to see. We have to see the Gemara exactly.
During Avelis, during Shiva, if it's Dover oven.
Well, no, we're going to have to see in the Gemara exactly when he's going to say this, how he's going to say this. But the Machlokes is, once you're being matter him to do something, do you only let him do the minimum, or do we let him just once we're being matter, we matter it? Right? That's the shaila. So it's a machlokes. Rabbi Yehuda holds you do the minimum. Rabbi Yossi holds you could do everything. So let's see. So the Gemara asks, Pasach ba'avol v'sayim b'moed. You started talking about avelus, and then you finished talking about chol hamoed. It doesn't say like Zev, exactly what you're saying. It doesn't say about by avelus. You started talking about avelus, then you switched to chol hamoed, and all you're talking about is on chol hamoed, about whether you're allowed to do these olive presses or not. Some Rav Shisha Breder Avidi, Zaisa Meres, this is what it means to say, anything that's mutter on chol hamoed is aser during avelus. Because the Mishnah didn't discuss the avelus, it just mentioned it. So therefore, the Mishnah is telling us that avelus is more chomer, and you would not be able to do it. Rav Ashi Amari says the opposite.
Can we learn it from a pasuk somewhere?
What?
That the Hilchus Chol hamoed is Hilchus Avelus. Is there a pasuk that compares Chag to Avil or something like that?
Well, you have a different kasha. Avel, a malacha for an oval zicher derabbanan, right? Chol hamoed is maybe a deraisa. So you can't. How are you saying that Hilchus Avelus is more chomer than chol hamoed?
Chol hamoed today is deraisa.
Chol hamoed is machlokes today whether it's deraisa, right? So, but l'chayra, you can't say that Avelus is more chomer. Elamai must be the chachamim, right? The chachamim have the wherewithal to do that. Sometimes they say, we need to mamish make something very chashuv. So therefore, they're saying we have to treat it stricter than chol hamoed, even though by the letter of the law, chol hamoed l'chayra is more strict. Fine. Rav Ashi says the opposite. Like Lomi boy kamer, Lomi boy b'mei aveli d'midrabanan hu b'shari. It goes without saying that an oval is allowed to do these things, putting the beam on top of the olives, etc., and it's mutter alafilu b'mayed is a malacha b'daraisa. That in chol hamoed that is a malacha is a daraisa, but makom say the shar rabbanon. But it's even though it's a daraisa, but the rabbanon allowed it if there's going to be a loss. Which that whole sentence, what do you mean? It's also a daraisa, and the rabbanon are allowing you to do it. Right? How do you understand that? Right? It doesn't. How can you understand? The chachamim can be makel on isura derabbanan. They can't be makel on isura deraisa. Right?
Doesn't the Mishnah Berurah say the Torah gave chachamim the koyach?
Correct. So what it means, and this Taisus is way in the beginning of the Masechta, it basically means is that the concept of not doing malach on chol hamoed is a deraisa, but the power of what's not allowed and what is allowed was given to the chacham. That's the basic way. That's the basic way to understand it. All right. Okay. We're going to have to see also as we go through. Fine. So Tanya Kavaseder Rav Shisha Breder Rav Idi. We learned like Rav Shisha Breder Rav Idi that Avelus is more chomer. Elu dvarim ha'isen la'avel b'mei Avela. These are the things you're allowed to do for an oval when he's an oval. Say sav afuchen tayin loy. If his olives are already turned over, like the Mishnah said, then you're allowed to put a beam on them. The kadoi laguf, and you can put if his barrels need to be covered so they don't get ruined. That's also allowed. Pishtani la'alis min ha'mishra. And let's say he has his flax they had to soak flax back then. So if you leave it in there too long, it's get ruined. So if it needs to be pulled out, we do that for an oval too. But simrai lahalis min ha'yoira, and also to take the what do you call it? The wool. To take the wool out of the vat. right? And it's because it's also going to get ruined. And you were allowed to water the fields when it's his turn. The way it basically worked back then was that they had a rotation. They had a rotation of who's going to water the fields. So he's going to water the field. If it's his turn, meaning every week or whatever, day, month, somebody else watered it, so it was his turn, then he's allowed to do it. All right? Rabbi Yehuda, you're allowed to even plant for him a field that's already plowed, and a field that's meant for flax, right? Because with these things, if you don't do it, then it's going to be a loss. Amru Light, so they said to him, like Tizra. So let's say, what's the big loss? If you don't plant in the early season, you'll do it in the late season. And like Tizra Pishtan, so don't plant flax. Tizra Miminacha, plant a different type. Right? So what do you see? That he's trying to be, he's being a little bit more machmer here. Fine. If he has the olives already turned over and they're ready to be squeezed, and there's no worker, Elahu, there's no worker that could do this, only him. And they have his barrel needs to be closed up, sealed up, and there's nobody else to do it, only him. To take the flax out of the barrel to be soaked, and the wool to be taken out of the vat, and there's nobody else but him. He's allowed to, the oval is allowed to do it, he's not allowed to do it in the public. Whole shaila is here, what's this? Is Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, he's basically echoing the Tanakama. So is he explaining it, or is it just a repeat? Okay, yes, Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. Now here's this unbelievable. If this person sitting shiva is a worker that the public needs him, the sapper, he's a barber, ubalon, the rabbim, and he's the balon is he's in charge of the bathhouse, begia es haregel, and it became yomtiv. Well, I don't think it means yomtiv, it means whatever this, they need him. And he's the only worker in town, hareze yasa, he's allowed to do it, even birabim, because tzarech rabbim is more important than the avelus. Okay, which be'etzem we paskin like this. I never heard of anybody doing this, but and we'll see this more weiter. But if a guy's an employee for a boss, he has more of a shiba to the employee than he does to the halacha of keeping the avelus. Right? He's meshubed. He told the guy he's going to get a job done. He has to get it done, which we'll see right now. Harisin v'chakirin v'kablanim. These are types of like sharecroppers. So the different ways of making partnerships in the fields. But these three are basically they're I don't know what's the word for it. They're paid on a percentage, meaning they're working for the fields, and the boss they give a certain percentage to the boss, and then they keep the rest. So bottom line is, let's say this guy became an oval, the oris or the chakirin or the kablanan, he became an oris. I became an oval. I'm sorry, right? So now, if he stops working the field for a week, he'll take a loss, but he's supposed to take. I mean, he's just not going to gain. But his boss is going to lose out. He said, I have you working my fields, and now I'm messed up because you're not able. So it says, Hare elu yasu acherem b'shvilan. So he could have other people do it for him. Meaning he doesn't have to shut it down, but he could have other people do it for him. Hachamorin, hagamalim, saparin, people that sell out, that they rent out donkeys and camels and boats. Hare elu lo yasu. They're not. Nobody's allowed to take care of them because he's just not going to have. He's just not going to make his money. But if they were, meaning they were rented out, the animals were rented out for somebody already before the avelus, and then he has to go give this to them. Hare elu yasa. Then you're allowed to do it, right? Because they're going to lose. They're going to lose, all the people are going to lose out. You already signed contracts. Bottom line is the oval already signed contracts. So he has to maintain, he has to keep his business. Otherwise, other people are going to take losses. So the basic rule is that if other people are going to lose, then the Oval is allowed to do the work or have the work done for him, right? But if it's only him, that's just not going to make. Then that's fine. Whatever he can't do. Schir Yoim, an hourly worker or a daily worker, even if he's in another city, so nobody knows he's in an Oval, lo yasa, that he's not allowed to do, because the rule with a Schir Yoim is that he can back out whenever he wants, and that's expected. That somebody is a daily worker, he knows the guy might stop, and his boss can't have any tinnies on him. Fine. If he has a contract to do other people's work, even though he did it as a kablan, which means that he doesn't have any deadline, right? The biggest difference between a kablan and a regular thing is like when you bring your car into the mechanic. So he's not working for you for hourly. He's working for you. He says, I'm going to take care of your job, whatever your job is. And whenever it gets done, which is why you're allowed to drop the car off on a mechanic on Friday, as long as he has the potential time to do it on Friday. Even if he does it on Shabbos, he's working for himself. So if you're not time constraints, then it's not a problem. So he's not allowed to do it. So the Gemara says, what do you mean? What's the chiddush? That even if he's in a kablan, he can't do it, meaning there's no time pressure if he's a kablan. Right? A guy's a tailor. So somebody the day before his relative is nifter, he gives him the thing to tailor, and he says, "I'll get it done for you whenever." Right? So of course, what's the chiddush? Of course, he can wait till after the Avelis. That's what the Gemara asks.
Construction on the house.
You're not allowed. Enough for a novel, you're not allowed.
Why not? The guy's going to lose out.
So that's the question. Yeah, if the contractor is going to take a lose and he has no other jobs and this is his job and he has to get ready for another job, then it would be mutter. Yeah, it would be mutter.
What about the other way? The guy who's doing construction with? Oh.
Well, we're going to get to the other way in a minute. So Gemara asks, even though it's kablanis, right? And it goes without saying not a kablan, adarabah kibaylas kididei, dummy. Doing it as a kablan, that's as if he's working for himself, because there was no time pressure for him to get it done. So that can't be. Whether the oval accepted the work to do it or not to do it, lo yasa, he should, or to do it as under a certain time frame, he should not do the work. Right? Because he can push it off and he can get the work done after.
I'm going to have to pay another month's rent if the construction guy doesn't.
Okay, but then that would be okay. If the construction guy is going to lose, that's okay.
No, if the guy who's doing the work in the house.
So let's see. Well, this is really your construction. Right? If his melacha was given to other people, right? Meaning he already gave his suit. The oval gave his suit over to somebody else. Till now, we're talking about where the oval is the tailor. Here, the oval gave it over to somebody else, so he shouldn't do it. But he shouldn't do it in the guy's house, in the oval's house, but in somebody else's house, he could do it. Okay, Marion Bray. You know what? It's late already. We'll stop over here. Yeah. Okay. I hope it was a lot of information here tonight. I wish we had more time, but all right. Fine.
Tomorrow night is regular night time?
Tomorrow night should be regular time, yeah. There's not going to be there's no 8 o'clock kitzur shir tomorrow because I'm still out of town. So maybe hopefully Tuesday we'll do it.
Nice, good.
All right. I'll go to night, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah. What? What happened last night? We got cut off. I went back on. I don't know what happened, Gershon. You were in the middle of saying something.
Yeah, cut off. The whole thing got cut off.
Yeah. Inside, I'm freezing now.
I don't know. I can't remember what I was asking anymore.
All right. Anyways, I gotta go.